Well, as it turns out, the best way to stay happy is to go with the flow of things. The constant state of affairs is change. It is fluctuating, and your comforts are fleeting. Your standards will be challenged. You have to be able to change yourself, to be able to adapt your outlook, to see your situation in a positive perspective. There's not any one way to look at things that will make you better off or make you more content. The only way to be more content, to be happier in general over a long period of time, is to change your outlook on things as the things change themselves. Because things are going to change. That's just how it is. That's just the world we live in. That's just existence itself. To exist, it must change. You're not seeing static existence. What you're seeing is the interaction, is the change. What you see is waves, and these waves are changing. They're going up and down. If it didn't go up and down, you wouldn't see it. That's the idea behind existence and perception, is that the fluctuations are what we see and what we perceive. There's no way for anything to exist without changing. It is the fact that it changes that makes it exist. So, it's an understatement to say that the world or that everything will change. That's an understatement, because you're first saying that there is an everything, and then that it will change. But the two are not. The existence does not precede the change. The two are concurrent with each other. So it's just an innate thing about existence. And like I said, you have to change with that. And of course you are changing because you exist. But you have to change how you look at things. Because I can right now say that I like potatoes. And because there's like a bunch of potatoes and they're cheap, I'm happy about that. But if potatoes ever become like a scarcity and they become expensive, and then I were to at that point change my outlook and say that I don't like potatoes, well then I'd be happy about that as well, because there wouldn't be as many potatoes around. I'd be like, well good, I don't like them anyway. But that's obvious, and that is something that we all already know. But you have to extrapolate that to bigger things. You have to look at every situation and look at the upside. And it's not always going to be possible, and it's not always going to be the right thing to do, but it can really help you. There are so many good things about terrible tragedies that happen all the time. It's just that we're not willing to look at these things a lot of the time, especially when it's something like losing a loved one. You don't want to be like, oh well, now I don't have to do this for them, or now I don't have to listen to them talk about the news, like they're dead. Like you don't want to look at the upsides of that. And maybe you shouldn't, maybe you should feel bad about it. Maybe you should mourn it, and maybe you should be depressed, because otherwise you're not human. You think you want to be happy all the time, but imagine how insincere and annoying that person who's happy all the time would be. Imagine how alien they would feel. They would come off as. So obviously there's a finesse to being happy. You can't just be happy all the time because people will hate you. And it's the weirdest thing. It's the oddest thing. And once you do actually get to that point, then you realize that there's no ups. You're not really actually gaining anything, because it's always a trade-off. It always is, and it always will be. It always has been. And you look at these people who are depriving themselves of certain things in the name of enlightenment. These ascetic monks, these gurus, they deprive themselves of intercourse, money, speech, whatever it is, in the name of enlightenment. And that in itself brings them joy. Just the pride that comes from the validation of their own restraint, that's something that feels good to anyone, and that's good, and that's fine, and that, but that's not all that they're going for, or at least that's not what most people think is all they're going for. But it is all they're really getting, because this enlightenment, if you actually are chasing this enlightenment, its deceit is twofold, and it should not be chased. Because first of all, you are already enlightened. You already know how the universe works. And by searching for something deeper, by searching for something more, you are admitting that you don't know how it works. You are deceiving yourself into thinking that there's something that you don't know, even though you do know. You do understand all of this. It's all right here. It's pretty plain and simple right in front of us. But no one wants to believe that. No one wants to, like, God damn, is it depressing looking at the world and thinking, wow, this is it. That's it. It's just, there's nothing else. But But if you really get it, if you really understand it, if you really realize that this being it is okay, and that it's beautiful enough in itself, and that you don't need any more. Why are you asking for more? You don't even understand everything about the ground you're standing on, because there's just so much to it, just physically, that there doesn't need to be anything beyond it. There doesn't need to be anything beyond this. There doesn't need to be any more than 3 dimensions. But that's the first problem with enlightenment, is that it causes you to disregard reality and think that there's something better than reality, which is inherently self-destructive, because what you're doing is you're belittling the existence that you have right in front of you for something that doesn't exist. But the second problem with enlightenment is that once you do get it, if it's not really actually there, but once you realize that it's not actually there, which some would call that enlightenment, and again, it kind of depends on how you look at it, because no one really has the gall to say that they've attained enlightenment, and that, but the thing is that if you're going for it, then how are you attempting to gain enlightenment knowing that no one has ever gained enlightenment? Because that's the premise that everyone goes off of, right? So let's just hypothetically say that I have attained enlightenment. I'm not saying whether I have or haven't. It really doesn't matter, because if you follow the logic of this hypothetical situation where I have, you'll understand why it doesn't matter whether I do or don't. So, assume that I have attained enlightenment. It would follow that I have reached the peak of spiritual progress, and I no longer have a purpose to ascend spiritually. So I have no more reason to put effort towards the spiritual. Correct? That would follow regardless of what you mean by enlightenment, because I've reached the pinnacle. So there's no reason to put any more effort into it, right? So as you see that I have reached the pinnacle of spiritual, I've reached the top of the spiritual mountain, then I would 100% focus on the material, on what is and what we know to be, just the universe that we perceive in front of us. And that is enlightenment, is only focusing on what is in front of you, only focusing on what exists, only focusing on that which can be interacted with. It just, the logic provides itself. And if you follow this logic correctly, if you have an open enough mind to listen to this logic process, you realize that enlightenment could not mean anything else. The only thing enlightenment could ever mean is that you stop searching for anything beyond this existence that we exist in right now. There's no reason to waste effort on that. And if there was a reason to waste effort on that, then you would get to that point eventually in which there would be no reason to further waste effort on that. So there it is. So that's the point. That's the whole thing. And that is all that the thing could ever be. Because if someone did get enlightened, like what are you expecting an enlightened individual to then do after he gets enlightened? Or she, after he or she gets enlightened? What would you expect her to do? To turn into a ball of light and shower sparks over the universe? I mean, that's okay. If that's what you think, then by all means, go for it. But most people just think that they couldn't comprehend what it would be like to be enlightened, and that it would be something so foreign that they don't even try to imagine it. But really, it's just not there. It never was, and it never will be. And it's just this fantastical point, because life is a journey, and we all just assume that there's an end point. And that's why we think that there's something more. We all think that there's some kind of goal, just because there's a journey, because that's how we're wired to think. But it's not. There is no end. There is no goal. It's just the journey, and that's the joke. the whole time. It's you go on a walk, right? You're like, well, where to? And then you start walking, and the person you're walking with looks at you, and she's like, nowhere. I just wanted to go on a walk. I just wanted a journey. I just wanted something. And it's something. Look at it. It is something. I tell you what, it's definitely something. You got something. And that's all it is. That's all it was. So don't go looking for something more when this is right here what you have. It's like if I gave you a gift and you kept looking at the bottom of the box to see if there was something else. It's sad. Just be happy with the gift that I gave you. Don't look for something more, There's nothing else. It's just this. Is this not good enough for you? I think of that every time someone asks for a higher meaning or whatever. I'm just like, what do you want? Look at this. It's freaking insane. This whole thing is just so much. And there's so much beauty and complexity and just everything. It's so much. I had found out that there were 100 billion connections in the brain. And roughly, to me, without any actual science behind it, not that I really could do that even if I tried, but I thought, 100 billion bits, right? We basically have 100 billion bits. So that translates to roughly 100 gigabytes? Billion giga. Yeah, exactly. And bits are different. Bytes are 8 bits, so it's gigabits. Don't get that confused with gigabytes. And that's our computing power. That's our whole thing. And we go faster, and our cooling systems are better, And we have these analog biological sensors that they don't have to, they can't be really quantified. So it's kind of hard to get that wrapped your mind around. But we do have a limit to our complexity. And if you look at the universe, as much as it exists, it is whatever you think the universe is, however big you think it is, that's how complex your brain is. The universe is actually, infinitely complex. There are, I think, approximately 500 sextillion molecules of H2O in a droplet of water, which is, over, sextillion to billion, be 3, so you go billion, so trillion is 100 times or 1,000 times, quadrillion is 1,000,000 times, quintillion is 1,000,000,000 times 1,000,000,000, and sextillion is 1,000,000,000,000 times 1,000,000,000. So it's, it's 1,000,000,000,000 times more complex. One droplet of water is 1,000,000,000,000 times more complex than our neuron connectivity, in terms of like if each molecule was a neurological connection, which obviously is not as complex. Obviously, I mean, we have a lot of water in our brains, so like, just right there. But what I mean is that these numbers, your brain wouldn't be able to map the movement of water molecules inside one droplet of water. It wouldn't be able to simulate that, is what I'm saying, because it doesn't have enough ones and zeros basically to simulate that. And yet there you are looking at a drop of water like, oh shit, like it's a drop of water, I know what this is going to do in all these various different situations. And it's just from the top down look, you don't know what each molecule is doing, but you don't have to, because it all pans out, and that's like the beauty of life, is that this entropy thing that we have is completely inexplicable. It's just completely its own thing, and we just take it for what it is. We just take it and we're like, okay, that's just how it works. That's just one of the magics of the universe, basically. We understand how it works, but we don't understand how it works, if you know what I mean. But maybe that's everything, or maybe that's nothing. Regardless, the universe has more to it than you will ever understand. So there's no reason to look for more than our own universe right here in front of us. It's very beautiful, and if you look at everything and just enjoy it for what it is, you won't ever need to worry about who the creator is, or what happens when you die, or whatever. That's stuff that we don't interact with. And you can wonder about it and imagine, and it's fun, but you shouldn't stress over it. You shouldn't worry about it as if it's something that you should be thinking about more often, because it's not. That's looking at the box of the gift. It's not the box is just there to hold the gift, and we have no idea what the box is, and we never will. So there's no reason to think about it. And maybe there is no box. Maybe it's just the gift. Just enjoy the gift of life.